Hello, Comp 2 writers. We are moving into our second and third assignments, so I wanted to make a video to go over those with you. What I'm about to do is give you guys a whole lot of information because I'm going to be talking about two assignments at one time. I don't want you to get overwhelmed. You can see the due dates here, that our second assignment is due March 9th, and then the third assignment isn't due until April 6th. But these assignments are linked. You can't really talk about one without talking about the other, so I really need to talk about them at the same time so you can understand how they work together. Okay, the second assignment is the annotated bibliography and abstract for the third assignment, which will be a poetry explication paper. Explication, that just means you're explaining something about a poem. In this case, you'll be explaining literary devices that are working in a poem. Okay, so I want to, what we're basically doing, we're taking one paper and spreading it out across two assignments so we can kind of slow down that research process and kind of take our time gathering sources and then writing the paper. And hopefully you will gain some research skills that you will be able to use later in other classes in college, in grad school, if that's where you're going, and on into your professional career. These are important research skills that you can carry with you beyond this class. Okay, so let's talk about, let's just go ahead. I'm on the assignment number 3 assignment sheet. Let's just go ahead and look at the overview here. Okay, so what you do is choose a poem from a list of poems, and it's at the end of the assignment 3 assignment sheet. Here is the list of poems right here. All of these poems are in our textbook, so you don't have to go looking for it. They are all in our textbook. You will notice there are some poems in our textbook that are not on this list. That's because I've had students try to write about certain poems before that they had a really hard time finding sources for, so I decided to take those off of our list for this assignment. That typically happens when a poem is pretty recent. There just hasn't been much written about it yet. All right, so let's go back up here. Okay, so what you want to do, once you choose your poem, you want to examine it, look for the ways in which literary devices are being used in it. You probably learned about literary devices in English in high school. Look at the list of literary devices in the assignments. There's 2 folders for these assignments, number 2 and number 3, and I've got that list in each one of those folders. So just go pull that literary devices list up and you can kind of familiarize yourself with what those are. It's all kinds of things like personification and symbolism and metaphor, things like that you probably already have learned about, and you can kind of refamiliarize with yourself with those in that list that I've got. Okay, so at this point, you'll have your poem, you'll have an idea of which literary devices are being used in it. Now you want to look for sources. Okay, this will be different than our first assignment. On the first assignment, you could use internet sources, but for this paper, for assignments 2 and 3, they need to be academic sources. If you go out Googling, you probably won't find what you need. If you do find something you can use, there's a good chance they're going to want you to pay for it. So please don't do that. Instead, what you need to do is access Pulaski Tech's library databases. This is where you'll find peer-reviewed academic articles that have been written about these poems. So some of these poems have been around for a long time and are considered classics, so a lot has been written about those. What you're going to want to do is find what other people, what scholars have written about these poems and see what they're saying about what literary devices are being used. Because that way in your paper you can say, Emily Dickinson is using personification in her poem, I Could Not Stop for Death. And then you can use one of those sources where an expert is also saying that she's using personification, and that will support your point. One really good place for you to go, I try to put all of this research information in one spot for you. So let me go over to our Blackboard shell. I've created a folder called Research Resources, and it's over there under Course Materials. You can click on that. And there, right now, the only thing in there is a folder that says Research Tips from your Pulaski Tech Library. So click on that. This is how you can get to the databases that we have available to us through the Pulaski Tech Library. If you were not a student, you would have to pay to access this stuff. Since you are a student, you can access all of this information for free. What I will do next week is post a video showing how to get around inside these databases. But this is where you will locate your sources. There's Academic Search Elite, Opposing Viewpoints in Context, ProQuest database. Those are the main databases that you will search for your sources. Okay, let's go back to Assignment 3 sheet. Okay, so while you're looking in these databases, keep in mind that you're looking for 5 sources. So the 5 sources, that is for assignment number 2. What you'll do is find 5 sources that are talking about your poem, that are talking about the literary devices in your poem, and you'll create an annotated bibliography. That's what assignment 2 is. Actually, an annotated bibliography and abstract. Okay, so you've got your poem, you know which, or you at least have an idea of what literary devices are working in the poem. As you're researching, you might find an article that talks about a literary device working in your poem that you hadn't even thought about before, but you at least have an idea. So let's look at the assignment 2 sheet. So what you'll do is gather 5 sources from our databases, and then you will evaluate them and annotate them. If any of this sounds complicated or scary, don't let it worry you, because this assignment, I think, is actually really easy once people understand how to do it. What I see students typically try to do with this assignment is make it too hard. So you need 5 sources. Let's see. And for each source, you will need a complete MLA citation. So you already know how to cite an MLA. You've probably done that before this class, and you did it on the first assignment for this class. So, and I will show you, and you can also look in Purdue OWL how to cite an article from a peer-reviewed academic journal in MLA format. There are examples for how to do that at Purdue OWL. So you'll have the complete MLA citation, and then you'll need 4 sentences of annotation. Don't get carried away. Sometimes I have people turn these in and they write half a page for each annotation. You need 4 sentences, and you'll see right here I'm telling you exactly what each of those 4 sentences need to say. The first one, you identify the subject and the topic of the text. The second, you identify the author's stance and argument. The third sentence is how you know this source is credible. The last sentence explains how you plan to use this source in your paper, in your assignment number 3. And I will post an example of a past student's paper so you can see what all of this is supposed to look like. Okay, so you have your 5 sources. With each one, you've got a full MLA citation, 4 sentences of annotation underneath each one. And you want to put those in order, first, second, third, fourth, just like they are here in the assignment sheet. The abstract is going to be just a short, not more than 1 page, just a short piece of writing where you're explaining what your paper, your assignment number 3, will be about. And also I say here exactly what that needs to have in it. You'll explain the topic of the paper. So, that's where you'll say, I've chosen to write about this poem, and I've chosen to write about these literary devices that are working in it. You'll write about how you plan to develop your paper, what you've completed already. So at this point, you will have already gathered, evaluated, and annotated 5 sources. So that's what you can say you've done already. Let's see. You want to include your working thesis statement. Working means it can still change. And each of the main reasons you believe your argument is true. You want to make sure you put the annotated bibliography and abstract in the same document. And of course, these need to be in MLA format. So this will be due Tuesday, March 9th. And by 11:59 p.m. Here is the grading rubric. And that's how the grade will break down there. The citations, we need to talk about the grade real quick here because this is important. The citations are worth 5 points each. So that's 1 point for the full MLA citation and then 1 point for each of the 4 sentences. That's why it's important that you've got complete information here. 5 points each doesn't sound like a lot, but you multiply that by the 5 sources you're going to have. That's 25%. That is a quarter of your paper. So that's really important. The credibility of sources is also important. That's why it's a whole 20%, because I need to make sure you're not Googling and finding where someone blogged or someone wrote a paper for their own college class and posted it and you're trying to cite that. We need to make sure you're using academic sources. Because these are important research skills that you will be using later in your academic and professional careers. The abstract is another 25%. And then we have grammar and mechanics, MLA format. Notice there's nothing for length here. And you might be wondering what's the word count on the annotated bibliography. There is no word count because what's important is that you've got those 4 sentences and that you're answering those questions that the assignment sheet is asking for. The abstract needs to be about a page. There's not really a word count on that either. So this is a little different because there's not a word count, but what's important is getting the information the assignment sheets are asking for. On assignment 3, there is a word count because now we're talking about the actual paper. So this is going to be a minimum of 800 words. This doesn't include the works cited page. It does need to be at least 800 words minus the works cited to get the points for the length. And of course, it needs to be in MLA format. It needs to be clearly organized into paragraphs. And of course, you have to have a works cited page. The cool thing about the annotated bibliography is you will have already written out those full MLA citations. So you can just even copy and paste them from your annotated bibliography onto your works cited page for assignment number 3. Okay. Let's look at important dates for this. The assignment number 2, the annotated bibliography, is due March 9th. On Tuesday, April 6th, the revision, which is optional, for the annotated bibliography is due. Also on Tuesday, April 6th, assignment number 3 is due in Blackboard by 11:59 p.m. Then on Tuesday, May 11th, assignment 3 revision is due. That is actually finals week. That's our very last week of the semester. We'll be doing peer review for both assignments 2 and 3. Also, an important note here, once you turn in your second assignment, you cannot change the poem you're going to write about for assignment 3. That's because you would basically have to start all over. You'd have to go gather new sources and evaluate those and annotate those, and you don't want to have to start over at that point. Okay, here's how the grade breaks down. It's similar to the first essay we wrote. Okay, so I am about out of time here. I will have more information later. I just wanted to talk about both assignment sheets and give you an overview of both of these. And this is something we will continue working towards for the rest of the semester. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. I hope you guys have a good day.